Commissioner Candidates Forum tonight. I'm Kate Duriel from the League of Women Voters of Haverford Township. We believe in presenting fair, nonpartisan information about the candidates whom we will elect. We're very fortunate to have all 8 candidates for commissioners in wards 2, 4, 6, and 8 here tonight to speak to you and answer your questions. Their name tags show the name that will be on the ballot. Even if they go by a nickname. To save time, I will let each of them introduce him or herself. May I ask everyone to please turn off your cell phones and pagers now. We are videotaping this, so any distracted noises would interfere. Tonight we will begin with a pledge to the flag, followed by opening comments by each candidate. They all have the same amount of time for these comments. And then we will begin by asking the moderator to ask the questions you have turned in. They'll be collected if you haven't finished writing yours yet. Our moderators are Chris Whiting and George Lavin from the Haverford Township Civic Council. You may see organizers organizing the questions. We're just taking out any that are duplicates. We're not changing them in any way. They will be passed to the moderator in no special order. Remember to only ask questions about which the commissioners have something to do. You can't ask them about your federal income tax or the school bus schedules. Sorry. We'll ask the questions in different orders. A candidate may always choose to pass on a question if it does not pertain to his or her ward, or if they agree with the previous speaker. You may indicate the ward you are in if it is a specific problem or question. You will see volunteers doing the timing and holding up signs for each speaker when their time is up. At the end, when we have just a few minutes left for the forum, each candidate will give their closing statements in reverse order from how they started. Thank you very much, and let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't know if anybody explained the process, but there's going to be, I guess, a total of 8 questions that we'll ask to all of the candidates, and the candidates will each address and answer each one of the questions. And beforehand, there's been a specific order in which the candidates will address the questions and answer them. Let me start with number 1. And I guess before we get going, all these questions have been
openings.
Opening statements. I'm sorry. Is there a the opening statements are, according to this, I only have first names, so I'm going to say Cheryl.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and HCAN for arranging this candidates forum. My name is Cheryl Forsty Grupp, and I want to serve my ward and Haverford Township as the next commissioner from the 2nd Ward. When my husband and I moved to Haverford 20 years ago, we knew we had found a very special community. We knew that this was the place we wanted to raise our 3 children. They all attended Haverford Public Schools. They grew up going to the library every week. We often would bicycle there. My husband still bicycles to work downtown at CHOP. But Haverford Township is a community where we all live close together, and we really do know each other. It's an old community, more than 100 years old, and we have many great facilities, services, and programs and parks. But we could do much more to improve our township if we work together to talk about what kind of future we want our town to have. I have been a teacher for more than 20 years. My parents were teachers. I know how to work hard to meet challenges. I know that there's more than one way to get things done. And I know how to listen to others so that we can find new ways to solve old problems. I know how to collaborate with others who don't always agree with me so we can accomplish significant goals. And I know that to achieve big goals, you have to work consistently and doggedly over the long haul. I promise you that if I am elected commissioner, I will always act with integrity and speak with honesty and make decisions that reflect our shared values as a community. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. Many of you, like many of you, I grew up in Haverford Township and never gave much thought to our local government or how decisions were made. Generally, things seemed pretty good. That changed for me in 2005. At that time, we had 2 young children. Our home on Garfield Avenue shares a driveway with our neighbor, and our house became a popular spot for young children and their parents to congregate. I was concerned about the number of cars and the speed using our street as a cut-through from Westchester Pike to Eagle Road, which was prohibited. I contacted our commissioner. His response was less than satisfactory. I expressed my disappointment to him and to my neighbors, who then encouraged me to run for commissioner. I decided I would. Running a grassroots campaign with the help of friends and neighbors against the established incumbent, I gained the support of the majority of the people of the 2nd Ward. I believe in taking action and working with others to fix things and to make them better. I worked alongside the Lanark Civic Association to beautify and to create the Lanark Crossing Park. I worked with other volunteers to build Freedom Playground. With the Friends of Haverford Trails, we cleared the Pensy Trail. With the business community and the Partnership for Economic Development, we've revitalized many of the business districts. With the rec department and the board and the park board, we've envisioned Haverford Reserve, and working with the Board of Commissioners, we've established the Human Relations Commission, passed the Climate Action Plan, and funded improvements to our library. We have worked together to make this a better township. That is why I got involved, that is what I have done, and that is what I will continue to do as the Commissioner of the 2nd Ward.
Thank you. I want to first thank the League of Women Voters and the other candidates for rescheduling this event in light of the passing of my mother-in-law. I believe residents should judge a commissioner by the vision the commissioner sets forth for the township, their ability to deliver those services and their work in a bipartisan way, and look at it in 3 areas. The first is constituent service. That means responding promptly in whatever way residents desire: phone, email, print, in person, working with community groups, not one, but all of them, and answering questions and making certain that the township follows up and delivers the services you pay for. We're also responsible for township management, which means assuring the prompt and efficient delivery of services in a fiscally responsible way. Trash, police, leaves, trees, all of the things you can take for granted are what you pay your taxes for and what a commissioner needs to deliver to residents. We also need to guarantee transparency, that our government is open and that the residents can find out what is happening and the decisions are not made behind closed doors. We need open board meetings, we need minutes and agendas, things I've accomplished. We need to provide modern facilities for the township so that the staff can do its job better. That means technologically efficient facilities. We have a new modern police station. The police are moving in this week, making certain that our public works yard is safe for our workers and that our facilities are ADA compliant so that all residents can use them. And finally, we need to set a vision for the township, to make it a destination for people to live, to work, and to want to come and visit our stores, our residents, and our businesses. I'm the only candidate who lives, works, and operates businesses and represents and works with township businesses every day. Look at what's happening in this township. And when you judge the record and look at the visions of the candidates, please look at them in light of those criteria. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin O'Neill, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters as well as HCAN for organizing this candidate forum. I want to extend my sorrow and condolences to the Siegel family, and certainly in the passing of your mother-in-law, and from my family to yours. I'm very sorry to hear for your loss.
Thank you.
I want to take this opportunity to be able to introduce myself to the constituency here in Haverford Township. My name is Kevin O'Neill. We moved here in 2013, my wife and I. We recently, 2 years ago, we have a 2-year-old young little girl who we've encouraged to repeatedly say, vote for Dada as much as she possibly can. We are looking forward to growing our family here in Haverford Township. We moved here because, as my wife and I both describe it, this township has a very old school feel. The homes are old and beautiful, the neighborhoods are quiet and tranquil, and we were attracted to the parks and the services and the sense of community within this township. My wife and I are both attorneys, and I too run my own business here in Delaware County. My office is based in media for good access to the courts. We are here to grow our family and to grow Haverford Township. I undertook running for commissioner here in Haverford Township because it is my view that the best way to effectuate change and a positive outcome for Haverford Township is to be involved in community groups, to organize block parties, to participate in the Civic Association, to sit before you all and represent you all to the Haverford Township Commissioners. I have volunteered in every single town that I've ever lived in. When I left college, I moved back home, as a lot of recent college graduates do, and ran for school board in Pendelco. I served there for 2 years throughout law school. I have experience, and I have the know-how to move this township forward in a positive light. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Larry Holmes. I'm the 6th Ward Commissioner. I've been the 6th Ward Commissioner for the past 3 terms. It's been my privilege to be the Commissioner of the 6th Ward, and it would be my privilege to serve the 6th Ward again. I have a nice introduction here with a list of all the wonderful things I've done for the township, and if I can get to them in the 8 questions, I will. But I will tell you folks why I ran. Unlike Commissioner Oliva, who called his commissioner and wasn't satisfied with the answer, I called my commissioner in 2005 with a complaint, and the next day my tires were slashed. Now, I'm making a joke, but you need to understand the township that we were dealing with in 2005. Officials ripped at meeting. Crowd calls for change. Haverford manager says he was ordered to pay lawyer. Haverford officials point fingers about $600,000 payment. I was part of a revolution in 2005 that said the old way of doing things in Haverford Township was through. The 19th century way of doing things in the 20th century was over. And I hoped we would get into the 21st century. Like any revolution, we signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and it took 13 years to pass a constitution that we live under. We won a civil war in 1865. It took 99 years to pass a Civil Rights Act. Do not think in 12 years that we have cured everything wrong with this township. We have made extraordinary gains in this township. We have transparency. We have work sessions. We have eliminated the abuse of executive sessions. We have new facilities, new personnel, but we are not done. please re-elect me to this board. Let me continue the revolution, and thank you for the privilege of being here tonight and being your commissioner.
Good evening. My name is Carmelina Del Pizzo, or Carmi, and I am running for the 6th Ward Commissioner here in Haverford Township. First of all, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. I am running for 2 reasons. One, there is presently no female representation on the Board of Commissioners. Haverford Township has 51% female voters over male voters, and I'm trying to change that. 2, I would like to effectuate better communication within the township and in particular the 6th Ward. I have been a resident of the 6th Ward since I was 19 months old. My parents lived on Woodcrest and Bryn Mawr, and then when it came time for me to purchase a home, I purchased on St. Mary's. I love Haverford Township. I went to Coopertown until I was in 5th grade, and then I went to St. Denis. I fondly remember growing up in a community that everybody just enjoyed to be around each other, and I feel privileged to have grown up in that community. I remember going to Chestnut Wald when it had the Parks and Recs camp down there. I remember Haverford Township Day is one of my most favorite days of the year. I played for Haverford Township travel soccer team for many, many, many years. I still currently play at almost 32 years old. I'm pretty proud of that. And I really, really, really love growing up in this community. And I really want to bring a fresh new perspective to the Haverford Township. My family has been rooted in this community. My parents have lived there their entire life. My grandparents, who are here tonight, have lived in Haverford Township their entire life. My grandfather was a tailor on Eagle Road that I'm sure many of you probably went to. We are invested in this community, and I love being part of this community, and I would love to bring a fresh new perspective to Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Hart, and I'm running for 8th Ward Commissioner. My wife Ann and I moved to Havertown in 1990 from a small town in Georgia, looking for a community that was affordable, close to Philadelphia, and with a good school system. Havertown has been all that and so much more. Ann and I, as well as our children, have developed many wonderful friendships here. Our school system has helped prepare our 3 oldest children for college and careers. Perhaps even more important to us is the way our community and schools welcomed our 3 youngest children with open arms when they joined our family 9 years ago. We feel blessed to be part of this community. I've seen many positive changes in Havertown in my years here. We are a more diverse community than when I first moved in. The Y and the Creek have been built, and we have begun to build biking and walking trails. Still, many of the problems that were discussed at debates held here 4 and 6 years ago persist. Traffic on Eagle Road, the need for long-term planning, stormwater management, the need for a new library. Added to this list is a burgeoning opioid crisis that is affecting countless individuals and families in Havertown and Delaware County. There is much work that needs to be done. I recently retired after working as a family physician for over 30 years. It was a career I was passionate about, and that required me to be open-minded, to communicate, and to problem solve. All skills that I believe would help me work with fellow residents and commissioners to meet and solve the challenges our community faces. I want to thank you for attending tonight's forum, and I look forward to hearing and answering your questions.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to League of Women Voters and your support groups that are here this evening. What a wonderful community we live in. And it didn't get there overnight. We've been a township since 1681, laid out by William Penn himself, a tract of land. And we have evolved into a community that there are families from all over, near and far, that want to move here, and families who stay here. We have a very large retention community. there's a lot of heritage here in Haverford Township, heritage that many people might not be aware of, such as Joshua Humphreys, who was a shipbuilder and built the first 6 ships for our Navy back in the 1800s. In fact, one of his ships is still on display in the Boston Harbor. I tried to get it down here for Heritage Day, but the Cobbs Creek Park just wouldn't hold it. But you're more than welcome to go out to Boston and take a view at it. We are a community of many small neighborhoods, and that's what makes the whole Haverford Township a place that is welcoming, that is warm, and where people want to feel that small town community. I started my community service as a young teenager with the volunteer fire service. And I'm proud to say that I'm still with the volunteer fire service after 43, going on 44 years now. I'm on the board of directors, not as a firefighter. I started out as a firefighter, but I'm still on the board of directors now. Over the years, I have volunteered with scouting. I have been involved with Little League, and I got into That's the 2 minutes. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
From the audience, the person asking the question states that they are anxious and nervous about the negative and divisive atmosphere that has been filtering down into communities and schools since the recent presidential election.
Couldn't hear.
Can everybody hear if I just talk loudly? No? No? Okay. Let me try. I am also concerned that no federally elected representatives have addressed this negativity. The question to each one of the candidates is, what are your plans to work together as Republicans and Democrats and to do what is best for Haverford Township and to accomplish goals rather than be influenced by partisan politics, to be positive and work together and not fight with each other? First one is Dan Siegel.
Thank you. That's a particularly apt question. I remember when I first ran for commissioner 20 years ago, and I'm a very different person now from who I was then. I learned that the way you accomplish things and the things that we have accomplished in this township are by working together, working without regard for party. I'm proud that I have worked with all of the commissioners on this dais and the others to effectuate change, positive things. We do things differently on this board because we collaborate. We work as a team, and we've accomplished a lot. We were the first community in the country to issue or to adopt a resolution following the events in Charlottesville condemning hate. We did that unanimously. We've worked together to establish the Human Relations Commission. It's the need to work together. You can ask any commissioner on the board. My views are, you work for the community. There isn't Republican trash. There isn't Democratic snow. It's all of us together.
Kevin?
This is a very apt question. I've been knocking on doors, as many as I can, throughout the 4th Ward, and trying to drum up support and talking to my neighbors and talking to the constituency in the 4th Ward. And it's often on the weekends to the background of major calamities throughout the United States and major partisanship, whether it be Charlottesville, whether it be response to hurricane victims and things like that. And the first thing I say to each one of my neighbors is that this is not about Democrats and Republicans. This is a township race that matters to everyone. We are in this together. This is not about partisanship. This is not about polarization. This is about working with each other. I don't care if Mr. Holmes is a Democrat. I don't care if Ms. Del Pizzo is a Republican. I'm here to do what's best for Haverford Township, always. It should never come down to partisanship, ever. I support the bipartisan working with each one of the members of this commission, and I look forward to doing so.
Mr. Lavin, I've been on the board for 12 years. I've never had any choice, but if trying to accomplish anything, I've had to be bipartisan about it. I've never shared more than 3 Democratic colleagues in the 9-person board. I've spent some lonely years where only I and one other Democrat were members of this board. So I have no choice. But for those things that we've accomplished, to reach across the aisle and try to get support from my Republican co-commissioners. It's really 2 different questions. What do we do about divisiveness at the top, and what do we do to get along with one another? The fact is, some of the best accomplishments that we've done, the Human Relations Commission happened. It was a Democratic initiative, but we were able to get Republicans to join it. We have joined together, all 9 of us, to talk about climate change. We've joined together to talk about condemning the violence in Charlottesville. We joined all together to talk about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering was to condemn gerrymandering and tell the state assembly to stop doing it. So I think I have a good record of bipartisanship, and I look forward to 4 more years of it.
Army?
Thank you. Well, I've had this question a few times when I've gone door to doors, and I've given the same answer, and this is what I really believe. Everyone has more similarities than differences, and if you take the time to actually realize that, you're going to know when you go door to door. Somebody knows my mom from when I went to Coopertown, or I played soccer with somebody's daughter. And when you start to break down those barriers and we realize that we're in a community that cares about everybody, and everybody's going to be different, and that's why you're in the United States. My family came from Italy to come here. I don't take for granted being in a country where people are allowed to believe what they want to believe, and that it's so important for us to listen to each other and focus on similarities. And I think that's how you overcome negativeness, by focusing on the similarities that you have, embracing them, and focusing on the betterment of Haverford Township. Thank you.
I think in general, one of the great things about Havertown is that it's, at least on the community level, it's not a partisan environment. I've been coaching baseball, soccer, basketball for 25 years. I would never know what the parents of the kids I was coaching, what their political persuasion were. We were there as a community. I think I coached several of Chris's sons in soccer. And daughters, okay. So it doesn't, there is partisanship in politics, but I think as a community, we are a fairly nonpartisan environment. It's one of the reasons I love living here.
I'll agree with everyone here. At this level, bipartisan is a way of life. At the upper level, I encourage everyone to reach out to those representatives at that level and explain to them. It either makes you uncomfortable or you agree that, you know what, this may not be working. But at our level here at the township, I absolutely look at every neighbor as a neighbor. I don't think there's ever been a conversation that I've walked into up to a neighbor and said, hey, what are you registered as? It didn't matter. And it doesn't matter in my house, it doesn't matter in my family or on my street. But everybody has an opinion, and that all comes from what party they may be registered to or not registered to. And you have to look across the aisle, as we say, and either agree to disagree or be open-minded and absorb that and act on it.
When I think about Haverford Township and when we came here, I think about all the neighbors who greeted us and how welcoming they were. I remember when my husband was sick, we had people coming from all over the place helping us out, and they didn't care that we were Democrats. And I certainly didn't care what their party was. And I think that's the essence of Haverford Township. When there's a problem to be solved, we do come together and support each other. I served on the board of the Haverford Township Library for a number of years, and we worked together to try and make the library the very best it could be. And it is still the very best library in Delco. And I think the library in some ways is sort of the epitome of a nonpartisan institution where everyone can come together and get out the materials they need to be successful. So that's one reason I think nonpartisan institutions and services are essential to binding us together as a community.
Okay, so I believe that this board, the board I've been on for the last 12 years, is a bipartisan board. We've worked together to accomplish so many things. You can see it when you're walking down the street. You can see it. You can feel it in the air. This township is in a new direction. It's going in a new direction. That's because everybody works together on this board. We work together for the common good. When we had a commissioner step aside on this board back in 2006, the majority of the board was Republican at that time. The commissioner who came off the board was Republican, but the person we put on was Jan Marie Rushforth, probably one of the most liberal Democrats that there was. And we did that because we did it for the best of this township, because she was the best for that job. So we do work bipartisanly, and we do care about this community.
Okay, next question. A little bit more about township communications. The specific question is, do you support televising the meetings of the zoning hearing board and the planning commission, and why or why not? And Carmi, you're first up.
Thank you. Yeah, I support transparency in the government completely. An example would be this. The 6th Ward does not have a newsletter. It hasn't had one. It has no communication to all parties within our ward. One of the ways that I've changed that as running for commissioner is I have a Facebook page that's dedicated to anything and everything that has to do with Haverford Township. So I believe televising any kind of meeting and televising the commissioner meetings, zoning boards is completely fine and open and good for the residents of our ward. My goal is to make sure everyone in our ward and township knows what's going on. If you know what's going on, you can have a say. And if you have a say, we can get things accomplished and hopefully resolve everything, all issues and concerns for all people, in particular the 6th Ward.
Larry?
Mr. Moderator, 12 years ago, we had newsletters that were individually written by township, individual commissioners. They would leave out details of ordinances they didn't like. They would put their own version of the facts. It's one of the things I fought against. I'm holding in my hands the fall of 2017 newsletter that went out to everybody in the township. This has more information in one newsletter than 5 years of newsletters had when we did them individually as a township. Why would I try to do something better than our township professionals are putting together? Now, there's certainly better ways to transmit information to everybody in the township and certainly everybody in the ward. The fact is, we have a township website now that's accessible to everybody. Every single meeting is available on YouTube and available on various websites. We have work sessions that are now televised. We have a greater degree of transparency than we've ever had, and that has been my issue since I was elected in 2005. As far as televising everything that takes place, we certainly can televise the planning commissioning meetings. The zoning board is its own entity the township does not have control over. I certainly would encourage the zoning board to televise their meetings, but it really is up to them.
Chris?
Thank you. I have one too.
Sure do.
And I brought it with me tonight. And I agree that getting the word out there, communicating with everybody in the neighborhood is very important. And I'm also very happy to say that, you know what, I was one of the lead people that went to Mrs. Widdop in the township and encouraged that, boy, the Have a Good Times looks really great. Can't we do that with our newsletters? And that's why you have the advertisements on the back, what have you. So I am in favor of having open communications and videotaping all of our meetings, because there's many people that can't get to them, and I think it is important that we have it on our networks. One issue is too, how much is it going to cost? You have to pay someone to do that, to put it out there. So, I mean, that's one thing that has been, the township manager has looked at and said, yep, we could do that, but it's going to cost us more money to do that. I am in favor of it, though. It may cost a little bit more.
I'm absolutely in favor of televising the planning board and zoning meetings. While the commissioners may not be able to force that issue, I do think the commissioners interview candidates to be appointed to the board, and I would not approve a candidate who would not support that. These are vital meetings in the township that we know little about. If you try to read minutes of any of these meetings, you get the bare facts. The township website is a good resource, but it could be so much better. When I'm looking for information, I actually turn to Dan Siegel's website, which has much better information and is much more easier to use.
Mario, you're up next.
Okay, so I believe in transparency in government. When I first got here in January 2006, I remember watching the commissioners. I don't know if you guys remember watching them on the TV. You could hardly hear anybody. So my goal was to make us have a much better view of what was happening. Now we have the channel. We have you can watch it on YouTube. It's out there for you to see. We put out newsletters, email. I have an email list, Facebook. So we reach out in every way that we possibly can. So I don't think that if anyone is out there, if they want to know something, they can come to us, ask us, and we would be glad to give them the information. As for televising the Planning Commission, those meetings, I'm all for televising them. Some of them we can't because obviously the Zoning Hearing Board is quasi-judicial, but I am for and in favor of doing transparency in government. Thank you.
I'm definitely for televising as many meetings as is possible because so few people are able to get to things in the evenings because of other commitments, maybe related to children. But the zoning board and the zoning commission and the planning commission are really critical, and they make important decisions about subdivisions in the township. They make important decisions about what businesses can come in. And we need to know what they're doing. And just having the agenda and maybe the minutes available on the township website is not enough. We need to see their inner workings. The Planning Commission hasn't had minutes put up since April, and they met in May, and it is now October. We need more transparency in our local government.
Kevin, you're up next.
Thank you. The obvious answer here is yes, that every meeting down to the Civil Service Commission, down to the Human Relations Commission, should be recorded and available for the public. Some of those are a little bit more dull than others, I will admit, in serving on both of those at one point in my time here in Havertown. However, I want to express my view here on communication. Communicating with constituents and communicating with the public is the bare minimum that this job requires. My opponent's going to talk about his email list and his website and his updates and the newsletters, and that, I submit to everyone, is the minimum of our job as a commissioner. That a website for the ward is necessary. That regular emails to constituents is necessary. That walking the neighborhood and meeting people face to face is absolutely necessary. These are not above and beyond things. Communicating with people in our neighborhoods is not over and above. It is the bare minimum. It is our responsibility as commissioners to communicate with you through websites, through emails, through newsletters, and through, most importantly, face-to-face contact. It's what I've done throughout my campaign and what I'm going to continue to do as commissioner.
Dan.
Thank you. There's no one on this dais or in this room, I think, who will disagree that I have done more to encourage transparency in this township than anyone else through a variety of communication. But the question was, should we televise the Zoning and Planning Commission meetings? And many of my colleagues here did not answer the question. It took 7 years for me to get the zoning board to publish minutes and agendas. We are the only local community that does not televise those meetings, and we should. And we voted to do so in October of 2014, and a month later, the board reversed that decision, with only 3 commissioners supporting continuing to do it. We need transparency. We need newsletters. We need all of those things. The Zoning Board and Planning Commission affect our daily lives and affect the quality of this township and our services. As a result, those meetings should be televised. We need to have the newsletters. I edit the township newsletter to make certain it's readable. I work in every way that's been described, going door to door. I do all of those things, but key is letting the public see what happens in our meetings.
The next question, and we're going to begin with Dr. Hart, and future plans with respect to the opioid crisis in Haverford Township.
There's no simple solution. I mean, this is a nationwide problem. Obviously, education is an issue, but we are trying to, I think, have been trying to educate kids about this for a long time. One, I think, is an important issue, which is putting it out in front of the public to realize how huge an issue this is, how it is really affecting. There's probably every street in Havertown that there's a family that has been affected by it. Part of it's recovery, it's resources for people, it's working with local groups. I believe that Havertown Alliance for Drug Awareness has done a wonderful job in getting the issue out in front of people, but it's our community getting together as a whole. I think my medical experience would benefit the community in being able to have a little better understanding of what the problem is and some of the solutions.
Chris?
Well, and I agree with that, that it's not something that's overnight, and it's not something that's going to, that we can do ourselves. This takes an entire community to work with this. We are a community that was one of the first that did put in the Narcan into the first responder units, the police cars and what have you, to get there on the street. We've been involved. We have the medical drop-off program that we work with the county, and we actually have a commissioners committee that we put together that I did ask one of our commissioners, bipartisan, to reach out to HADA, who we are working with directly, who we have been working with, have opened up our website to, have opened up our newsletter to, and moving forward, we expect to give them as much cooperation as we absolutely can. Thank you.
Mario?
Well, it's awareness. It's making people aware. I've lost 2 close people very close to me, because of this monster. And what we're doing in the township with Narcan, as we spoke about, and HADA is doing a great job with making people aware. It's getting people to get rid of that stigma and to educate people. So it's not a matter of, no matter how much money we pour into something or whatever, it is just making people aware and getting those people to come forward and get help and give them help, real help, not 2 or 3 days or inpatient, but get those people some serious help to help them get through a tough time. We get a lot of petty crime because of this issue. And if we don't deal with this issue right away, it's going to just get worse.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I run my own law. Should I jump?
Cheryl was up now.
Cheryl, I am so sorry. I apologize.
It's quite all right.
I jumped all over you.
Yes.
I was excited to answer.
I think we women are used to that sometimes.
I assure you it had nothing to do with that.
I think the problem of the opioid crisis is bigger than just our community. Our community alone cannot solve it. HADA has gone a long way for awareness. and that's an important step. We need to do the outreach into the schools, into the communities, into all the civic associations. We need to do that. But this is where I think local politics intersects state and national politics. Unless we make sure that our elected state representatives and our national representatives know that they may not cut off the funding we need to keep those rehab programs open, we will continue to have people succumbing to opioid crisis. We need to use our voice as a local government and say, we stand up for health care and the things people need so they can be healthy and lead productive lives. And that's where I think our commissioners could really make a difference.
So I jumped into my answer and stepped on Cheryl's toes, and I apologize for that, because this is a subject that I am very passionate about. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I do run my own law firm in media, and I focus on criminal defense. And so often, addicts that are suffering from opioid addiction are characterized as, they're given a stigma that the possession being illegal, that they get into this unbreakable cycle of probation and incarceration, and are never focused and directed towards the rehabilitation that they so desperately need. A lot of my job is to help and guide families to deal with this crisis that is afflicting much of our area and is significant here in Haverford Township. I can't tell you the countless families from here in Haverford Township that I've helped move towards inpatient rehabilitation, move towards NA, move towards support groups. This is such an important crisis that we're dealing with here. It requires an entire community banding together to make sure that addicts have limited resources to easy opioids, to easy pills, and to easy drugs. It is so important to remove the stigma of addiction of our residents here in Haverford Township. Thank you.
Dan?
Thank you. The situation is tragic, and I'm proud that our EMTs and our board have taken a leadership issue. But the problem of opioids goes well beyond something that this township alone can solve. I represent a lot of pharmacies who dispense medication and are well aware of the crisis. And in fact, I'm proud that all but one do not even include opioids in their formularies, nor do the doctors I represent prescribe them, because the situation begins with physicians, with the pharmacies, and the pharmaceutical manufacturers who understand that the opioids are inexpensive, the alternatives are not. This is a crisis that affects the healthcare system, which obviously we can't solve here, but we can lobby. We can talk to our leaders in Harrisburg and in Washington to have them look at this as an all-encompassing issue. It's important. It is tragic. When I learned that one of my son's colleagues passed away from this, you realize just how close it hits, because it hits all of us. But it isn't something this township alone can solve, but it's something we as a community can build on to try to help it get better.
Carmi?
Thank you. Unfortunately, a minute and a half is not going to address this question at all in any shape or form. I was a public defender for 3.5 years and did criminal defense for another 3 years. This is an issue that has grown completely out of control. It has no discrimination. It has absolutely no boundaries. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible disease that affects almost every single family. How you fix it, I think, in our powers is as a community coming together, as commissioners coming together and standing together and starting to address some of the issues on many different levels and talking with people in our community who are either medical providers, lawyers, and starting to figure out how we can solve it. One of the ways you can do it is you can tell the people at the farm that you're not going because you're going to the HADA event, and that's what I did. I was the only commissioner that decided and stood up and said we should not be making a farm the same night as the HADA event, and I was the only one that went, and guess what? All of us went, and I thought that was a wonderful thing that our community did to show support to HADA, who is trying to make a dent in this addiction issue. Thank you.
And at that forum, I asked two very important questions. One question about the Good Samaritan law to encourage kids to call the police and call EMTs when one of their friends is sick. And the other question I asked is, how do you push back against your doctor who's encouraging opioids for a child who's had a broken bone or an ACL or getting their jaw, getting their wisdom teeth out? And I don't recall any questions from you, Ms. Delpiso, at that forum. The one thing I can do, the only thing I can do as a commissioner is make people understand that they are not alone. It is the saddest, loneliest place on earth when you are a family and that family deals with mental illness, or that family deals with drug addiction, or that family deals with alcohol. There isn't a lot that I can do as a commissioner except to give Narcan to our cops and to pass resolutions and to push our state and our federal people to do something. But as a human being, I can tell anybody going through this, you are not alone. If you were sick, if you had a kidney problem, if you had a cancer problem, all these things open up to you and a whole community develops around you. But when you deal with this, you feel like you're the only person on earth. And the one thing I can absolutely assure all of you is that you are not. We all deal with it. We all care about it. And that's the one thing I promise I'll keep doing.
Okay, next question is from the audience. What are your ideas to improve pedestrian safety for school children, kids at play, and adults alike? And what will you do to ensure your ideas become reality? And we're starting with Mario.
Okay, so this is right up my alley here. About a few months ago, I put together together with Peter Puglianese, a grant, a TAP grant, that would provide $1.2 million to extend the trail from Lanark Avenue, where the old railroad trestle was, across Manila Road, and going down, hooking up into what is now the Pensy Trail. That would allow all the children who live in Woodland Drive, who live in Naylor's Run, who live on Lanark Avenue on the east side of, or on the west side of Darby Road, to take a safe route to school, to be able to go, to take your children and allow them to go walk straight up without crossing Manila Road, up to Bailey Park, up to the middle school, to the Y. This is something that is really important, and making a walkable community for our youngsters is important. Okay.
Cheryl?
Pedestrian safety is really, really important, because I remember that one of our kids was nearly run over by a car bicycling to school, so I really do believe in this. But I'm not sure that just a bridge over Manila Road is enough. I think indeed we should maybe think about an innovative program that Gettysburg, Pennsylvania put into place called the PACE Car Program. And this is a program where people certify themselves that they are going to drive absolutely at or slightly below the speed limit, practice every courtesy as a driver, and model for other drivers how you should behave on residential and every other street in the township. So just making sure kids get across Manila Road is not going to solve the problems that we have on Haverford Road, or Irvington Road, or Eagle Road, or Westchester Pike. And I think we all need to take responsibility as citizens for looking out for each other, those on foot and those on bicycles. So I think we could be a little more creative about problem solving instead of just adding speed bumps.
Kevin?
Thank you. This issue is very serious, particular to the Fourth Ward in my neighborhood, in the Fourth Precinct in Paddock Farms. A number of our children walk to school, to the middle school, and they have to cross very busy and very congested roadways in our township just to get there. It is a very serious concern of mine, having children. We also have several streets within our neighborhood that are nothing short of a drag race when you go down them. Gulf Hills, for one, and occasionally coming down Marybrook. My approach to traffic enforcement and increasing pedestrian safety is first and foremost to increase traffic enforcement through our police department. I think more can be done during heavy rush hour periods to enforce speed limits, to enforce aggressive driving, to enforce blocking of intersections which back up all traffic and all of our abilities to get to and from work, school, and everything else. Also, I think it's important as a township commissioner to work with state representatives, to work with federal funding, to work with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, to work out ways that we can temper congestion in our main roads, Eagle Road, Darby Road, and Lawrence Road, that primarily affect the 4th Ward and very, very much all of Haverford Township. I think it's important to have
Kevin, let me cut you off here.
Oh, you're cutting me off. All right.
Just a little bit.
All right. I apologize. Go ahead.
Dan.
Mr. Siegel.
Thank you. People who hear me talk know that no issue takes up more time for the 4th Ward than traffic, pedestrian safety, etc. Every major road that feeds the Blue Route goes through the 4th Ward in some way or another. It is a difficult problem. You have 51,000 cars a day on Eagle Road. I can't get out of my office many times. So the situation is not one that's easy because none of us is going to give up our cars, and I bet most of us drove here. The reality is that we have to work with the police, we have to work to educate residents, and to have community meetings. Twice a year, my constituent meetings always have the police. Sergeant Bedrosian and I are literally on the phone on a daily or weekly basis about enhanced enforcement, which is what Mr. O'Neill suggested. We talk about the traffic issues. We've done speed studies on virtually, I couldn't count how many roads in the 4th Ward. It's not an easy problem. We try to work with PennDOT. We try to work with residents. But we have 51,000 cars on Eagle, 40,000 on Darby, et cetera. It's a big problem.
Carmi?
Thank you. Again, I mean, it's not going to address this issue as best as I would like to, but I do know, in particular in the 6th Ward, there have been a lot of complaints when I'm going door to door, in particular my father, about Belmont and Bryn Mawr Avenue. Chestnut Waltz School is at the bottom of it. People are running the stop signs, and I mean really running the stop signs. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is speaking to the people on those streets, asking them what they're looking for. I think that's important too, to be cognizant of the residents in the ward and cognizant of what they want. One of the things that we've been trying to explore is getting a petition for one of the roads to perhaps put speed bumps in. Obviously, yes, the police encouraging them to patrol the areas more often would be a great benefit, but I think it's a multi-level or multi-layer issue that has to be addressed, and the first thing to do is to speak with the people on those streets who see it the most and ask them what they're looking for on those roads with those issues. Thank you.
Larry?
In 12 years, I've had at least 24 constituent town halls. At Chestnut Wall, traffic is the principal concern that people raise. Within the confines of the 6th Ward, we have very densely packed neighborhoods. Unfortunately, state law prevents us from putting speed bumps on any of those roads because we don't have enough space between driveways to do so. It's very frustrating. We do have very responsive police officers who engage in spot enforcement as often as we can raise, particularly hot issues. Belmont Avenue is an issue. One of the things we did on Belmont was we eliminated one side of the street parking. We have a problem with Haverford Avenue, and the fact is people try to get from Eagle to Ardmore without going on Haverford Avenue, and that is something that we try to repair. One of the problems that comes up when people say let's limit access to a street is that you have to limit even the residents' access to that street, and that becomes problematic. So it is a multi-level issue. What we do for the most part is spot enforcement in the 6th Ward. As far as the biggest intersections go, we continually petition the state to try to do something about Haverford and Eagle and Haverford and Ardmore. Those are the intersections of state roads, and we really need the state to get involved there.
Okay. Chris?
Thank you. This is an issue that continues, goes on and on and on, and no matter all the things that you do, there will always be concern for pedestrian safety and traffic. When I was a kid, I mean, each household probably had one, maybe two cars, and today, every household has 3, 4, maybe 5 cars. So there's a lot more people driving on our streets. Some of the things that we have done in the 8th Ward is reaching out to the school district, working together with them. One of the things that we instituted there was the Chatham Park loop for drop-off and for pickup. So it's organizing traffic to go around the neighborhood safely so that when kids are walking to school or pedestrians are walking their kids, parents are walking their kids to school, that they have a safe route. Everybody is being directed the same direction. Some of the other things that we do, enforcement. Enforcement also goes with not getting stagnant. And a lot of times with stop signs, you will see that we put a little logos out there, little signs out there that say, how much is a stop free, or how much is it for a rolling stop. So enforcement is key, neighborhood watch is key, and working with our school district is a key thing as we move into the future.
Dr. Hart?
I think this goes to the issue of long-term planning and looking at things and fixing our roads, making them more pedestrian and bike-friendly. 9 years ago, when the reserve opened, I thought, wouldn't it be great to be able to ride a bike from the 8th Ward out to the reserve? Well, you take your life in your hands on Darby Road. I ride bikes all the time, and there's been improvements, but it's definitely something where, as a town, we need to work to solve these problems. Eagle Road is another example. In Ardmore, there's pedestrian, you can get across Lancaster Avenue, which is a bigger thoroughfare. There's pedestrian crossings. You take your life in your hand crossing Eagle Road. I think these are, we need to take steps to make sure this gets done. There's an initiative in Philadelphia, the Vision Zero initiative, to lower or eliminate pedestrian and biking fatalities, and I think we can take steps that they're recommending.
Okay. This time we're going to start with Kevin. Kevin, what do you think are the 3 most important issues facing the township?
It's a good question. So my biggest concerns, and certainly the concerns that I've spoken with a lot of my constituents, is a lot of the things that we've talked about so far. And again, I want to mimic Ms. Del Pizzo's 1 minute isn't enough. But the primary concerns are the repeated concerns about traffic, about the accessibility to our township, to our homes. Another is the proper use of tax dollars. And one thing that I want to change is our approach to using our township's tax dollars. I want to be able to reach out to state representatives, to reach out to federal representatives, to help us lessen the burden of our taxes and the burden on our each individual residences. In my ward, we have some of the highest tax rates in the newer carriage homes, and that is a principal concern to those residents, is one that I am incredibly concerned with as well. It is crucial that we work with our state representatives to lower that burden and to create more funding for that. Also, and finally, and I see the stop sign, but if you don't mind.
I'll let you finish.
My principal concern, having a child, is our use of open spaces. And the fact that we keep them updated, that we keep them new and safe and accessible to our children. It is one of the main attractions we had here in Haverford Township, to move here for the parks, for the community. Thank you.
And let me just, before Dan answers, we've decided that this is going to be the last question for everyone, and then we're going to move into closing because it's gone on for a while. So I think we'll let you have a little bit of leeway to address the questions in a little more length than 1.5 minutes, and then go into the closing statements. Dan, you're up.
Thank you. I think the 3 issues, just to set them out, are financial costs, long-range planning, and making certain that we continue to make this township a destination for everyone. The financial costs include our overhead that we have no control over to a large extent, including the costs of pensions, appropriations and those items that drive the budget. We are fiscally very responsible. We have a superb finance director, and this year the township budget passed 9-0, the first time ever, including commissioners who have never voted for the budget during my time. So we do manage our finances well, but we have issues. We need to have better long-range planning. Was just proposed by the Assistant Township Manager who's here, a long-range plan for our playgrounds and our parks to make certain that they are up to date. That requires borrowing. Unfortunately, that has a cost, but that's what we need, because the parks, the library, those facilities drive this township and drive people to move here, which makes it a better place, makes it more desirable, and continues to improve this township and our values of our properties.
Carmi?
Sorry, I was writing my closing. So the three main issues that I see is definitely the opioid addiction and is a prime issue. Number one, not only is it killing very young people, but it's leading them to more crimes, meaning thefts in cars and what people refer to as petty crimes, which then could decrease the value of our homes. There's a lot of issues that go into that. So I think that is, number one, a very big issue. Number two, I think communicating with the residents is a big issue, and maybe we need to change how we're communicating. I appreciate the newsletter, may I borrow it, Mr. Holmes? That was raised, and may I note, it's all men on there. There's not one woman on this newsletter, and maybe this newsletter isn't the best way to communicate to people. Maybe using and getting better with our social media is another way that we can better effectuate communication. And third, safety, and that's a big umbrella that encompasses not only crime and issues with crime, but it also encompasses pedestrians and the safety with walking.
Larry?
Three most important issues I think the township needs to address right now is first and foremost a comprehensive plan, which hasn't happened in a long time, but I am pleased to say I'm part of the committee that has addressed the comprehensive plan and has actually agreed to join with Radnor Township to begin the work on a comprehensive overhaul of our comprehensive plan. And the notion that we're going to do it with another township is going to combine our resources, enable us to save money, and I think get a great deal more bang for our buck and some excellent perspective and experience from another township that is going through its own issues. The second issue, and this is very Haverford specific, that's the struggle between our residential areas and our business districts. You look at Lower Merion next door, they have more money than Saudi Arabia. And the reason they have that, I've been waiting all night for a laugh, folks. The reason they have all that money is because they have some of the largest, most lucrative business districts in our entire region, and they just pour money into the township coffers. We rely overwhelmingly on property taxes. Yet, every time we try to grow our business districts and we try to pack as much business as we can, we run into difficulties with those people who border those districts and don't want a drugstore and don't want something here and don't want something next to their neighborhood. If we don't grow our business districts and encourage them and encourage more people to come in and do business, even if it is on the edge of that district right next to a residence, we will die. Any inner ring suburb that relies more and more on property taxes will die. And the final thing we're going to have to deal with, and this isn't just Haverford, it's everybody, is going to be the increased reliance on local government to provide the crucial government services that are going to stop disappearing. They're going to start disappearing from our states and from our federal government. We have to be prepared as a township to take on more and more. The good news is we're the folks right here who already make the decisions for 95% of what matters in your life. So we're equipped to deal with more and more services that people need. So those are the three issues that I see, and there are plenty of others.
Chris?
One of the three issues that I think that we face right now, and although the opioid issue is absolutely, it's our young children, and it's not just our young children, actually, it's older people as well. I'm very proud to say, as president of the board, I was able to, along with my colleagues who also agreed, that starting a health and welfare committee to reach out to the county and to reach out to HADA, which is absolutely imperative. That is part of the long-range planning to bring new developing programs into our community. The other thing also is stormwater management. Under the comprehensive plan, I agree that we need to have, looking forward, the long-range planning, open space, stormwater management faces us right now. It's an issue we have that from past years, because of the development that we've had, we have to address this. And then to tackle township services, but still be responsible for our finances, quality of life, fire, police, and education. Working with the school board to make sure that all our taxes, are working to our best, to the best interests of our community. Thank you.
Yes, I'll agree that I think the opioid crisis is obviously the biggest issue in the township, and maybe the one that has been talked about the least up to tonight. It's one that we will all need to work together as a community to try to fix. As has been stated earlier, long-term planning is essential. We need a vision for the town. No town exists in a vacuum. In order to keep taxes down, I agree with Larry, we need to get more businesses that will share the taxes, that will make the township continue to be affordable for residents to live here. But that takes planning, and we need to look at our business districts and see how we can expand and how we can get better businesses here. Stormwater management is an issue that has been going on for years. It's a big issue in the 8th Ward. It gets pushed back year after year. We need to do something about it. There's flooding in multiple areas in the 8th Ward, and it's an issue that needs to be solved. Thank you.
Mario?
Okay, I have my 3 are climate change is my big one. We are dealing with a lot of stormwater issues everywhere in the township. I've been up to my waist high in water, helping some of our residents get out of harm's way, clearing out storm drains on a Saturday, and losing a pair of $100 shoes because of my getting into the water. So. Climate change is very important, and we need to address those issues. I think we've done a pretty good job of addressing those issues with our township building, police station, geothermal power in our CREC facility. The other things we're facing is business development. I heard some people talk about business development tonight. The things that we're doing right now for business development is we've created the HPD, or we've created the EDC, which works with the HPD for business development. Doing things like dining under stars, or moonlight dining on the boulevard, or Haverford Home Show, which is coming. Some of those things to keep people involved in the community, to make it fun to be here, to make it a place that people want to come to. Also, the HADA, the drug problem here, the heroin addiction issue is going to be very big here, and it is very big, but dealing with those issues and dealing with the county and other state officials to try to get some relief from that issue is something we're dealing with.
Cheryl?
I've been listening with great attention to everyone speak tonight as they answer that last question about what the 3 most important issues are for the township. It is very difficult, I have to agree, to choose just one, but I will, and that is the comprehensive plan. It is 30 years out of date. I'm a teacher, and if a student tries to give me a late paper, it's 50%, it won't get accepted. So our plan is 25 years overdue. And if we can come together as a community and talk about that comprehensive plan and articulate by dialogue, by listening, by really caring for each other, a vision for what our township can be and where we want to go, we can bring these other issues underneath that umbrella and really transform our township and bring it into the 21st century so we are ready to diversify that tax base and bring in new business and think about infrastructure and creative ways of solving, or at least us doing our small part to address climate change. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're going to wrap it up here with closing statements, and I've been asked that, I asked after each candidate has spoken, and just try to applaud at the end. And we're going to start at the left of the table up here at the audience's right, and work our way down the table. So we'll begin with Mr.
So I am to the left or am I to the right?
You're starting.
No, I'm bipartisan. So thank you, everyone, for coming here this evening. Thank you very much again to League of Women's Voters. And I'd just like to say, you know what, for the past 8 years, even though I've grown up in the township, I've been involved in so many things in the township, but for the past 8 years, I have poured my heart and soul into our community, into our neighborhoods, into you, the neighbors of the 8th Ward and of Haverford Township. And there are so many, yes, there are many things to do, and it is a process, and we do this together. I have always professed, this is not a me thing, this is a we thing, and we need to do this together, whether it's the community or it's every one of us at the crescent table up there, or at the commissioners meeting where we all sit together. Stormwater management is one of the things that I am the first commissioner to really push stormwater management. I think my colleagues will agree with me that no other commissioner has pushed this as far as we have so far in the 8th Ward, because the 8th Ward is at the bottom of that section there. So in the next 4 years to come, it's very important when you go to the polls on the 7th to please look at the candidates and take them into consideration, and I hope that you vote with as much heart as I have, no pun intended, as I have for the last 8 years that with your candidate. And believe me, I will continue to work hard for everybody, no matter what you're registered, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. Thank you.
Dr. Hart.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and HCAN for sponsoring tonight's debate, and to you, the audience, for your questions and interest about local issues. I'm not running to tear anything down in Havertown, but rather to build on the many positive aspects of life here, and because I think I have something to offer the community. I think my medical background and history of civic engagement will bring a different perspective to the Board of Commissioners. I hope to work with local groups like the Haverford Alliance for Drug Awareness in combating the opioid crisis that afflicts our community. In addition, I promise to make fiscally responsible decisions and to push for long-term planning to keep Havertown an affordable place for younger families that are moving in, as well as for older folks like me. I will promote parks and recreational facilities, and I will work to significantly expand our walking and biking trails. My appointments to local boards will be based solely on an individual's qualifications and not party affiliation. And most importantly, I promise to be accessible, to listen to residents' concerns, and to communicate about issues. I ask for your support and vote on November 7th, my race for 8th Ward Commissioner.
Carmi.
Thank you. Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and for everybody coming out tonight. As stated before, I'm running for two primary reasons. One, there is presently no female representation on the board. If I haven't ingrained that in everyone's head by the end of tonight, I did something wrong. But I feel very passionate about that, and I feel that our community deserves to have a female representative on the Board of Commissioners. Two, I'm running to better effectuate change. I've been working very hard since the beginning of the primary. I've hit on almost 1,500 doors. I've gone to 1,500 doors. And the number one complaint I get is they don't know who the commissioner in the 6th Ward is. They've never heard from him, and they think he's been in for a very long time. I don't take that lightly. Mr. Holmes told you in the beginning that he started a revolution, and he did all of these things. He might have done it year 1 and year 2, but he hasn't done it for 10 or 11 years, because no one in our ward knows who he is. People email him and call him. He does not respond. He does not change anything. I am someone who answers phone calls. I work very hard. I'm answering emails. I'm trying my best to effectuate change and be communicative to everyone in the ward. I don't take lightly the trust that would be bestowed upon me, and I hope come November 7th, you vote for the feisty little Italian girl and get her on the board. Thank you very much.
Larry?
Let's get something out of the way really fast. I never have been and never will be a female, so let's make that very clear. But I ask everybody here, who's the most progressive voice on this board for the last 12 years? I ask everybody here, when in the last 10 years I have stood out front on LBGT, I've stood out front on checking police powers, I've stood out front in professionalizing the delivery of services, I've stood out front on environmental issues, I've stood out front on complaining about gerrymandering, I stood out front last October and told everybody in this township not to vote for Donald Trump. I asked HCAN to meet with the chief of police and the deputy chief of police to talk about racial profiling. Ask yourself if I would have done any one of those votes or taken any one of those actions differently if I were a female. I'm Larry Holmes. I've been the commissioner for 12 wards for 12 years. Everybody knows who I am, and everybody knows that the work that I've done for Haverford Township has made the life better for the 6th Ward and has made lives better for everybody in Haverford Township. Ladies of the League of Women Voters, thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, thank you for your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and good night.
Kevin? I'll try that again. Kevin?
Thank you. And I'll start off much like everyone else did. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum here tonight. I think it's very important that you as the voters and you at home watching on television have an idea of where we stand and our beliefs. I am representative of the families that are moving here to Haverford Township, the new young families that are taking advantage of our beautiful parks, our services, the quality of life that you all who have lived here for many years have known to enjoy. I'm here to continue that, to look into the future. I am invested in the future of Haverford Township. I want to be able to look into the future and anticipate economic development, to improve economic development, to improve the corridor, the Eagle Road corridor as well as the Darby corridor and all of the Oakmont Business District, to improve those shops, to improve the condition of life and the condition that our township is currently in. I'm here to participate in civic associations. I was very proud of being one of the 4 people on Merribrook Drive to start our first block party in longer than anyone else could possibly remember. I am here to serve Haverford Township. I am here to represent you and listen to your voice. Not just through websites and emails and updated newsletters. I'm here to speak to you. I'm here to listen to you and bring your concerns to the Township Board of Commissioners. I'm asking you all to keep me in mind on November 7th and vote for me then. And most importantly, I want you to follow my daughter's instructions and vote for Dada on November 7th, okay? Thank you.
Dan?
Thank you, and thank you to the League. Anyone who thinks or categorizes me as someone who just has emails or a website really doesn't know me. When we talk about the future of this township, we're talking about the rec center, the YMCA, the police and municipal services building, and a newly renovated library. I was chair of the property committee, and I didn't take no for an answer. We worked years of meetings until the board formed a consensus, always with collegiality, never once with any kind of personal or inappropriate attack, because that's not how you work. The township has moved into the future, and we are all invested in our future, I as much as anyone else on this panel. I have devoted my time to making sure that the future of this township is in our facilities, in our people, and in the way we operate. We have a social media employee. Why? Because that is how the future goes, not the way we worked before. Compare this township to 20 years ago when I first ran, and the questions were, what's going to happen to the reserve and what's going to happen to the Superfund site? Now look, the Superfund site, we have a YMCA. The reserve is the jewel of this township, and we continue to improve our parks, our facilities, and everything else, so that this is a place that when I moved here 32 years ago, it needed work. We still need work, but look where we are now. Look at the visions, look at the accomplishments of those of us, and when you come into the voting booth on November 7th, remember that, and please vote for me. Thank you.
Mario?
All right, on May 18th, 1967, my father and mother, along with my older brothers and sisters, left all they had to escape communist rule from Cuba and come to America. They were fortunate to end up in Haverford Township. I was born the following year. And as the child of an immigrant or immigrants, I hold dear the values of liberty, equality, and democracy. As a Latino, I feel blessed to live in a town where you are valued as a person and respected by your neighbors. Recently, I came across a study done by the Citizens Task Force for Commercial Revitalization, which was completed by the Haverford Township Civic Council in April of 2006. It was both gratifying and impressive to see how much we've accomplished over that time. Haverford Township is a community that is on the move, a leader in the region. We are the envy of our surrounding communities. The library is the best in the county. Our cultural and music festivals are copied by other communities. Our township services, our police safety record, our trail system, our recreational facilities, our volunteer fire departments, all of these things make me very proud. More than anything else, I am proud to serve the people of the Second Ward as your commissioner, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th. I am convinced that our best days are ahead of us.
Okay. Cheryl?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. And I have to say that the format of this has been a little bit odd for me, because usually I'm the one asking all the questions. And I just want to say that you've had to listen to all of us give our pieces in a minute and a half little sound bites. But my nature is to ask questions of the people I meet and to listen to them and hear their concerns and empathize with them and think about whatever problem they have presented, whether that's a student in my classroom, whether that is a neighbor, whether that is someone that I've met while knocking on the doors in the Second Ward. My personality is, and character, is to listen and to try to make a difference. So I hope those of you in the Second Ward will think about voting for me, because I will represent change, I will represent inclusion, I will work for transparency, and I will do my very, very best to make sure that we are ready to meet the challenges and the opportunities of the 21st century as a united and nonpartisan Haverford Township. Thank you so much.
Okay.
thank you, first of all, to all our candidates. Aren't we lucky to have such intelligent people running for office?
Cheers to you.
Now, in case any of your friends and neighbors couldn't be here tonight, the video that we're making tonight will run on Verizon and Comcast community channels. It will also be uploaded to YouTube and linked to our League of Women Voters website. You need to know, though, if you show it to a group of people, you have to show it in its entirety. You can't just do little parts of it, because that wouldn't be fair or nonpartisan. Thank you so much for coming. A special thanks to our moderator, George Lavin, and to the Civic Council and Chris Blading, and for all the volunteers you saw here from the League. Thank you, and don't forget to vote November 7th.